Welcome in and welcome back to the Down South Philly Show. How y'all doing today? I am your co-host DP, and this stream right here is brought to you by none other than the Sports Lounge Media. That's right, you get us here exclusively on Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How y'all feeling? We got a lot to talk about today. This is kind of that period that we warned you about last week, right? So this is that time period where you kind of it's the true off season. So from the end of OTAs and mini camp to actual training camp, which is July the 22nd, we got a little bit of downtime. But before during this period, we'll still be able to get you some good content out there. And I know that y'all are tired of talking about Jair Alexander. But this is the last week. This is the last week we got to talk about it, guys. So let's jump right into it. So if you haven't heard, that's right, Jair Alexander has signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, last week on the stream, we said that it was a possibility that he could come to Philadelphia, which I wasn't mad at. I wasn't mad at that. I saw him as a valuable depth piece for us that we could possibly have him in the rotation. I fully believe in Ringo, and of course, Adoree Jackson backing him up. But from a depth standpoint, it just made sense to sign a guy like Jair Alexander as long as it wouldn't cost us like big money. So evidently it wouldn't have. Um, he has ties with Lamar Jackson, and it just seems like that might be a good fit for him. I don't know if he comes in and becomes the starting guy right away. They do have Humphreys and Wiggins on that team, and they're just loaded actually on that team, and that brings me to my next point. But before I get into that, I just don't think that him not coming to Philly is a huge loss. Like I said, I just would have preferred him from a depth standpoint, right? We could always use the depth, but hey, we got to close that chapter. I promise you, we won't have to talk about Jair Alexander another week. It's been 3 weeks in a row. He's finally on another squad, but the squad that he went to, the Baltimore Ravens, and they. Speaking of the Ravens, so this is a list of projected top 10 defenses coming into the year, and the Ravens are number 8 on this particular list. But when we think about the Baltimore Ravens, right? They have been contenders for the better part of the last, I say, five years or so. Um, so them adding a Jair Alexander, obviously that makes their depth a little better. The same thing that it would have did for us. Personally, from his standpoint, I don't think he could have went wrong with either club. Both are, in the conversation to be one of the best teams in the NFL. So from his standpoint, we offer. I don't think we could offer anything. We offer the same thing as the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion. So, but let's talk about the Ravens for a minute. They had an excellent offseason. They continue to draft well every year. This year, the big draft piece that they were able to get was Malachi Starks. Now, obviously, as a Philly fan, we wanted Malachi to come to us, but he would have had to drop. Um, he just wasn't there at 32, nor was he ever going to be there. Now, of course, as a Philly fan, we always want the best guys, but he just adds to an already dominant defense where they always have a top 5, top 10 defense. And I saw a stat recently that said that Lamar has had at least 4 years of a top 5 or a top 10 defense, but still he hasn't had a Super Bowl appearance. Now I find that interesting because when you think about, I think Tom Brady has had it a few times. Definitely in New England, he's always had a top defense. Mahomes had a top defense at least one of the years that he won the Super Bowl. But I think Lamar is the only quarterback in recent history that's had a top five, top 10 defense and not turn that into a Super Bowl appearance at the least. E Money. E Money Bentley says go Birds. Go Birds, E Money. How you feeling today? But yeah, so Lamar just he has to get over the hump, right? So it's kind of it's that time for him. He's had I think this is like what his sixth or seventh year in the league. He's had multiple MVPs. He's had the gaudy stats. He's been to an NFC. He's been to an AFC championship, but you got to slay the dragon in the AFC, right? The big bad Kansas City Chiefs. No matter how much we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, it just always comes back to the fact that you got to dethrone them. Because even when every year we say the Chiefs are expected to take a step back. The Chiefs could be weaker in a sense, but at the end of the day, they still always end up in the Super Bowl. So I mean, it's hard for me to count out Andy Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo as long as they keep that main core together and some form of an offensive line. I think they've proven that they know how to not only compete for an AFC championship, but make it to the big dance, right? If it wasn't for the Philadelphia Eagles, they may be, hoisting the trophy yet again for a three-peat, and we would never hear the end of that. So this year right here for the Ravens is crucial to me. They've been to an AFC championship. They have the quarterback that has the accolades, right? They have what seems like the defense on paper to you know compete for a championship. So what do we really expect from the Ravens this year? Because they've had good teams, and for whatever reason, they either get put out early or they make it all the way to a conference championship game and just can't get over the hump. Will this be the year that we see them get over their hump? That's a good question. We'll find that. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But tell me what y'all think in the comments. Is this the year that you expect Lamar Jackson to like make that jump? Because literally he has everything else on his resume outside of a Super Bowl appearance. And when we talk about let's touch on Super Bowl contenders for a minute because I think I have a different outlook on a team that's Super Bowl or bust. I don't believe, even though we've seen the Ravens come close as far as championship, I don't necessarily think you a Super Bowl or bust team if you've never made it to the Super Bowl. Now you have knocked on the door, and then the AFC Championship is knocking on the door. Don't get me wrong about that, but if you haven't like making it to a Super Bowl gives you a level of, I guess, experience that you just won't get unless you actually make it to the game. So while we talk about these teams like a Buffalo Bill or a Baltimore Ravens or a Texans team, a young up and coming Texans team, when we talk about Super Bowl or bust teams, you can only, in my opinion, put Kansas City at the top of that list. Obviously, the Ravens will have something to say about that. The Bills will have something to say about that. Not the Dolphins, the Broncos will have something to say about that. But ultimately, to me, what makes a team a Super Bowl or bust team is having been there recently, and that the list of teams who have been to a Super Bowl is just very small at this point. Obviously, from the AFC side, it's been all Chiefs. The Eagles have been there twice in the past 4 years. We talk about San Francisco, but they've had huge turnover in San Francisco. Obviously, the Rams have been there recently, but that's pretty much it for me from like a Super Bowl or bust standpoint. But obviously, any team can catch fire and you know go for it. But when we talk about even the Lions are a great team. They had they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator this past offseason, I think. along with some players. So I will be interested to see if they can even win that division again. Of course, they're slotted to win the division, but I don't necessarily consider the Lions a Super Bowl or bust team. I'm not really that high on golf. I think he could, but he could be considered one of the 10 best quarterbacks in this league, um, just given his resume. But when it comes to those clutch moments, I don't see that he has it. He turns the ball over too much for my liking, but I definitely think he could be in the consideration for like, you know, top 10 from the quarterback standpoint. But this is an interesting list of top 10 defenses when we talking about obviously Minnesota. They it seemed like they came out of nowhere last year, right? So obviously they drafted JJ McCarthy last year, brought in Sam Darnold, and Sam just showed out in camp. Also, JJ McCarthy tore his I think he injured his knee and was out for the whole season. So he had to sit down and rehab all of last year. But from a defensive standpoint, they made some noise last year. They kind of got exposed as a team toward down the stretch. I think they played well enough to win, but I don't think Sam Darnold gave them anything a fighting chance when it really mattered. Of course, they won 14 games, and it's crazy to even consider a team that won 14 games is a non-contender the next year. But that's exactly what they are. Because for one, we're not sure what we're going to get out of McCarthy. It's possible that he could come in and give them similar success, but are they going to win 14 games? I doubt it. And we talk about the Chargers. Obviously, Harbaugh's teams will always have a good defense. So you can you roll it out. They have a top 10 defense. They're going to have a top 10 defense under Harbaugh. There's two things that he preaches is running the ball and smash mouth defense. I think on the offensive side of the ball for them, it's going to come down to what Herbert can do. Can he finally produce? Can he win a playoff game? Um, before I even talk about them any further. Obviously, we know what we're getting out of Detroit. They had their whole defense just got hurt last year, and that really killed their chances of seriously making a playoff run. Seattle, their defense is actually pretty good, but again, they have Sam Darnold now. Lost DK Metcalf. I'm really not sure what they have offensively. Their offensive line was kind of shaky. I do like their backfield. They do both of their backs were pretty stable. I think Tyler Lockett is still on that team. Of course, they have Jackson Smith and Jigba on that team, but I don't think that they could be competing for a wild card spot at best to me. The Houston Texans, I love their defense and what they bring from their head coach. Um, I'm drawing a blank on the head coach's name. He actually played for them and us. D'Amico Ryan. D'Amico Ryan, the head coach. I love his coaching style and his defensive philosophy. They got some dogs on the defensive side of the ball. I love Stroud, so they definitely have a chance to. They're definitely going to win that division. Bare minimum, they'll win that division. Maybe you can pencil them in for one game. They win one game in the playoffs? Maybe two. Uh, Ravens, we've already talked about them. The Browns, they tend to always have a top defense in the league, and how could you not with a guy like Garrett, heading up the fold? Green Bay Packers, that's an interesting one to me. Them being a top 10 on this list. Um, they, yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Let's get to our next topic. So obviously, a good bit of this show is going to be talking about the addition of Kevin Patullo to the Eagles, our new offensive coordinator for this year, but not new to the team, right? He's been a part of this organization for the better part, I think, since 2021. he's Nick Sirianni's guy, so he's been involved in some way with the team, whether that be, you know, I think last year he was the quarterbacks coach. But when you think about from an offensive output, what we've had, so in 2021, that was Hurts' first starting year, and him getting his bearings. We kind of found out what we got in Smitty. That was his first year. So obviously, he's setting a rookie record with his receiving yards. But toward the middle of the year after our bye, we committed to the run, and we became one of the top running teams in the league. Right. So from that standpoint, let's look at what we have coming into this year. Obviously, we have one of the best tandems in Hurts, Barkley, and AJ Brown. We can't forget about Smitty. I'm actually really excited about Jahan Dotson being the number three, along with Goddard at the tight end position. We suspect that Tyler Steen is going to move into that right guard position that Mekhi Becton left behind, which I'm cool with. Steen, in my opinion, he probably was going to win the job before when Becton was here, but when he got hurt, he missed valuable reps, and Becton was able to slide in and give us what we needed from a run perspective, run blocking perspective. Where I think we got better with Steen, and Steen seems to be a better pass blocker, and in pass protection. That if it's any knock that I had on Mekhi, even after he had got going in the season, he was a liability on pass protection sometimes, and some of that could have been attributed to just him being so big. Maybe defensive ends were able to get under him or get around him on some of the pass protection. But Steen is a little smaller height wise, but I think he kind of reminds me of a Brandon Brooks back when we went to the Super Bowl in 2017. So that's the best comp for me. But when I look at this list of three-headed monsters, trios in the NFL. Nobody can argue with Burrow and Chase. Not really sure about Brown. Brown did do some good things. So Sidney Brown's twin brother plays in Cincinnati, but I don't know if I necessarily would put that as the number two duo. And I think it's mainly because of Burrow and Chase, because they are so dynamic. We go to Stafford, Williams, and Nakua. That's a good trio. The thing that I say about Williams is he fumbles too much. Yo, what's good, Bagel? How you been? Stafford, Stafford, Williams, and Nakua. That's a good trio, but in my opinion, again, running back is kind of where Williams is a good running back, but I think he fumbles too much, and we showed that in the playoffs. And the first, the first meeting we stripped him of the ball as well. Then we go to Jackson, Henry, and Flowers. I think that you could argue that they probably should be ahead of the Rams on this list. Um, that's big, man. That's big. Congratulations. That's really big. That you were able to strengthen your faith. Then we move down to Mayfield, Irving, and Evans. Now that's another interesting one because Bucky Irving, while he is a solid back, can he actually be used to put them over the hump in the trio department? Because when we talk about Goff, Gibbs, and St. Brown, I think they're too low on this list, honestly. I would move the Lions up. I would move the Ravens up. Um, Stroud, Mixon, and Collins. That's another solid one. I would have to put them in the top five. Prescott, Williams. See, we don't know what we're getting out of Williams to have them on the top five. Now Dak and Lamb, we already know that they put up amazing numbers. No argument there. But we just don't know what we're gonna get out of Williams in Dallas yet. And we got Tua, A Chain, and Hill. They put up numbers. I guess you can kind of consider them as a top 10 team. Now, Penix, Robinson, and London, that's another interesting one because we haven't seen a lot of this trio. Obviously, Penix was a rookie last year, so we only got to see him for a few games. They put him in toward. I don't think he played the whole year. I'm not sure when he was put in, but I got to see more out of that trio before I can list him as a top 10. But y'all tell me if it's anybody that they missed on this list. Who should be in the top 10 of trios in the NFL? Who would you put in? Who would you take out of this list to add your trio? Because I think that's interesting to note. So they got us, and I can't argue with us being number one. How can I? Because when we talk about Hurts, he's the reigning Super Bowl MVP. When we talk about Barkley, he's the best running back in the league. When we talk about Brown, he's arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best wide receiver in the league. So when we talk about trios, and you gotta put us number one as a trio. It's no better trio in the NFL, and that's kind of the the theme that we have with our whole team. It's kind of hard to any list that you can think of, not to put us at the top of it, especially offensively. And the crazy part about that is we have a lot of talent on offense, but we didn't have a lot of production during the year. Um, at times we were stagnant, I would say, before we decided to commit to the run. So the first month of the season, and I think this might be true for most NFL teams since they don't participate in the preseason anymore. They come out sluggish. They kind of use those first 4 weeks of the regular season to work out the kinks and kind of get in shape. And everything that you would have done in the preseason, they pretty much do that in the first month of the season. And especially in Philly, we tend to start, even though we may win the game, we pretty much start slow, which I'm not a fan of that. We definitely can't afford to do that with the schedule that we have this year. Starting off with Dallas, then playing the Rams and the Chiefs and the Bucks. Our first 4 weeks of the season, we cannot afford to come out sluggish. So, with that being said, see Bagel said I got one Eagles, Ravens, Bengals, Bucks, Rams, Lions, Texans, Cowboys, Falcons, and Dolphins. Now, are you talking about Bagel? Are you talking about overall teams? Or are you talking about trios? Yeah, are you talking about the trio of the quarterback, running back, and number one wide receiver? Or are you talking about as an offense as a whole? Or are you talking about the whole team? Let me know. Um, I lost my train of thought. But when we think about, oh yeah, we can't afford to start slow with what we have on the offensive side of the ball. We need to be clicking on all cylinders. Trios based off that list. Yeah, that's a solid list. That's a solid list. You got to put Eagles number one, right? Then you got the Ravens, the Bengals. I'd be interested to see what we have, um, not we, what they have in Brown this year. Um, we saw some good things out of him. Let's see if he can build on that and be even better this year. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that one. Um, but Kevin Patullo, obviously, this is his first year as the coordinator. Um, we actually got another list to talk about of what he's inheriting in a sense. Um, One of the best receiving corps again. So when we talk about AJ Brown and Smitty, and we got to throw Jahan Dotson in there because we're talking about a full core. Um, I really don't see too many teams that have a 1, 2, and a 3 that are better than ours. We're pretty much loaded on the offensive side of the ball. Now this receiving core, I think it says wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs as well. So when we consider, so even though it says receiving core, it's talking about the offense. And again, that's what I just said. Um, it's not too many teams that you can put. I don't think there's anybody that you can put offensively over us in a ranking before the season starts, just based off of one, the production that we put out last year, and just when we go player for player, who are you going to put on the field that's better than what the Eagles have offensively? See, Bagel back. See what Bagel said. Well, Barkley is the man cover, so you can only wonder what that means. Personally, Bagel, I don't really believe in the man curse, or curses in general. I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Um, do I expect him to run for another 2,000 yards? I don't. I don't. I think if he can give us 12 to 1,500 yards and we still end up in the same spot, hey, I'll take that. Doesn't mean that he was cursed. It just means that we used him differently. Obviously, we can't expect him to have that many carries as he had last year down the stretch. But we do add AJ Dillon, which I'm excited about the addition of AJ Dillon as a 1-2 punch. I was a fan of um, Gainwell. Excuse me. We had Gainwell last year. He was a solid number two, but I think we get a bigger back. I know we get a bigger back in AJ Dillon to go along with Barkley, and if for some reason he goes down for a game or two, I think that he could carry the load, you know, and make sure that we still have a powerful rushing attack. So, with that being said, with Barkley, I think that we can expect 12 to 1,500 yards from him, just under 10 touchdowns. Now, if they would have banned the tush push, he definitely would have had another 10 plus um, touchdown season. He still could, um, but I'd be interested to see how we expand on the passing game this year because I think with the success that we had on the ground, you got to think that people are going to commit to stopping the run, which they pretty much that's been what you've had to do against Philly for the past 4 years. You got to stop the run, and it's not just Philly. Any quarterback. When you think about offense, you have better defensive success against any offense that you make one dimensional, right? And what's the first key to making a offense one dimensional? Stopping the run. Bagel says, "Do you think that Saquon will be better or worse in fantasy?" Um, if I had to guess, I would say worse, but not significantly worse. I don't think he has a 2,000 yard season, but I still think that he could help you win your league just because we're still going to run the ball. We may not run it at the clip that we ran it last year. Um, Saquon gave us big play after big play. He's a home run hitter, but we haven't really taken a step back with our offensive line. So the holes are still going to be there. And you can't afford to stack the box because we have AJ Brown, we have a Smitty on the outside, we have a Jahan Dotson and a Dallas Goddard. So you have to play us honest in somewhat of a base defense. Um, because of the weapons that we have. So from a fantasy standpoint, um, I would say that it won't be much of a drop off, but it will be a drop off. I don't suspect him to have another 2,000 yard season. That would be naive of me to. I didn't think he would have a 2,000 yard season last year. In the midst of him doing it, so I definitely don't see him doing it again. If he does it again, hey, I'll welcome it. But like I said, I expect him to be in that 12 to 1,500 yard this production standpoint and just under 10 yards. But funny you should say that, Bagel. So I don't know if you heard, but the Down South Philly show is now featured on the Sports Lounge Media. So on the Sports Lounge Media, that's the logo that I have on my shirt. Um, we actually have a guy that talks fantasy. And he actually comes on. It's called the Marshall Experience. He's coming on at 9, right after this show, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you should check him out, go ahead and subscribe to the Sports Lounge Media. Obviously, you'll catch us there on Tuesdays at 7:30. But we got a full cast of guys with shows all week long. But he specifically talks fantasy on Tuesdays, so that'll be an even better question to ask him. That'll be an even better question to ask him tonight, what he thinks about Saquon and his production. Now, obviously, if they had banned the tush push, um, he probably would give you the same amount of production fantasy wise because of touchdowns, right? When we take the tush push out of our red zone offense, then obviously Saquon is the next man up. Goddard would be a benefit of that. And AJ being a big target in the red zone, he will benefit from that as well. But as we know, the tush push is living on for another week, another year, and we won't get to see the effects of banning the tush push. Maybe I should start a coach show. Yeah, hey, we told you that last year. Yeah, go ahead and start it. I'll definitely support you. You've been one of our big supporters, so I definitely will return the favor. I currently don't know many Colts content creators, if any, so that would be dope. Yeah, why not? You love the Colts. But getting back to the wide receiving core and what Kevin Patullo is potentially, or not potentially, is inheriting, you got to put Philadelphia number one. Tampa Bay at number two is interesting to me because we do have we got an older Evans who shows you that he's a walking 1,000-yard receiver every year, no matter what's going on. Godwin is coming off of an injury. Um, I can't remember who they have at number three, but for them to be number two on this list, they got to have a dog at number three. Y'all drop in the comments who their number three wide receiver is because I'm drawing a blank on that. The Bengals obviously have Jamar Chase, um, T. Higgins, and I do like Yosavash. I think that's how you say his name, Yosavash. Um, that's a nasty three-headed monster they have, and Joe Burrow knows how to get them guys the ball. Then we go to Detroit with golf. We got J Mo. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Um, do they still have Michi? Oh, I forgot about him. Oh yeah, yeah, they do. He's gonna be a dog. Yeah, he's gonna be a dog. Um, so rightfully so, they got some weapons. So with Tampa Bay, I think that they have the potential to be something special. They don't have a strong division to compete. Um, the Falcons, the Panthers are going to be a sleeper team, though. I don't know if they can win the division, but they'll definitely make it hard for everybody in the division. Bryce Young came on strong toward the end of last season, and then they added a dog in McMillan. I think they drafted McMillan. They already had the wide receiver out of South Carolina, Xavier Leggett, um, and they can run the ball well with Chuba Hubbard. So they have a nice core of guys, and they've always been known for decent defense. Hey, they played us tough. They were a drop away from beating us last season. Um, and this is the NFL, right? So even when you talk about your lesser teams, any given Sunday, any team can beat you. But with that being said, I think the Panthers are one of those sleeper teams. Um, Outside, I don't really see anybody on this list wide receiving core that doesn't belong. I would question the health of a Miami Dolphins because obviously Tua brings up those concerns. When we talk about Minnesota, they're loaded at specialty positions. We don't know what we're getting out of JJ McCarthy. San Francisco 49ers are an interesting one. They always tend to figure it out offensively with Shanahan. I love Shanahan's offense and his attention to detail when making every play in their arsenal pretty much look the same. Obviously, they lost Debo. Debo went to Washington, but they still have Ayuk. They just signed Kittle to a big contract. Um, no matter who's running the ball for him, obviously it's Christian McCaffrey, but no matter who's running the ball for him, the way their offense is set up, they'll have success on the ground. So as a core, San Francisco is going to have something to say. I still suspect the Rams to be the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFC West. But I think that they, as in the 49ers, have something to say about the division from that aspect. But I've already alluded to a little bit of how we got here with Kevin Patullo. So obviously, when we look back to 2023, when we just replaced Sugar Shane Steichen with Brian Robinson, and we replaced the defensive coordinator or the head coach that's in Arizona now. We replaced him with Desai. We took a major step back. Was it all on them in 23? I don't think so. A little bit of it was we just started off rusty. We still had a 10-1 start. Defensively, I just don't think we were very good. We were very weak in the linebacking core and safety core, and we just didn't have enough to compete. Obviously, Hurts in the offense was still a number 4 unit. We covered up a lot of the defensive efficiencies or deficiencies earlier on, but obviously it wasn't going to be enough to win a championship. And as you can see, it kind of fell off the rails a little bit toward the end of the season. Uh, we still made the playoffs barely, but we got stumped out by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Um, so when we think about repeating that cycle of going to a Super Bowl that next year, we lose. Now we lose. What's his name? The offensive coordinator for the Saints now, Kellen Moore. We lose Kellen Moore, and Eagle fans can get kind of nervous. Well, oh, here we go again. Every time we're good, they take our good players, they take our coaches. But I don't think that it's necessarily the same this time. One, we still have Fangio from last year, which is huge for us. For us to have, what did Bagel say? Bagel said, "Wonder where Shane went." You know where he went. Sugar Shane Steichen went to the Colts. Um, but yeah, when we talk about, I think that the situation is different when we talk about Kevin Patullo versus Brian Johnson in the 23 season. One, Kevin Patullo has been with the organization for a while. He's Nick Sirianni's main guy. He's witnessed us have to change the offense in 21 from whatever we were doing before the bye to being pretty much run heavy. He witnessed what we did in 22, where Sugar Shane Steichen came in Sugar Shane Steichen was here in 21 too. But in 22, we just took it to a whole nother level. Obviously, at that time, we go out and we trade for AJ Brown, which, in my opinion, that opens up our Super Bowl window. If we don't ever trade for AJ Brown, I don't think we ever get to where we are now, 2 Super Bowls later. But Kevin Patullo's been here for all of that. Last year, he was the quarterbacks coach for us, so he's already had a working relationship with Hurts. So we'll be able to take that to another level. What we can expect, right? It's hard to say because we haven't seen any snaps in 2025, but we've already gone over what he's got to work with. He's got a top from a player standpoint, he's got a top offense to work with. He's already seen what makes them successful because he was in the building this whole time. I would be interested to see if he keeps the run pass ratio the same as what it was last year. And I think that's probably just going to be dictated by what we see on a weekly basis out of defenses. I suspect early on that a lot of defenses will probably have the notion of, hey, we got to stop the run. But I think it's going to come down to, is the team capable of stopping us because we have so much offensive firepower? I really think that he could come in and have similar success to a Kellen Moore. It's easy for us to forget, but a lot of people were saying that Kellen Moore wasn't a good move. He didn't get much in with the Chargers. He was with Dallas during their 12-5 stints, the 3 years that they went 12-5. They suspected that, coming here, we would see the deficiencies of Kellen Moore. And what does he do? He helps us win a Super Bowl. Now, down the stretch, Kellen Moore was in his bag, especially the last 2-3 games in the playoffs. Well, I say the last 2 games. It seems like everybody put it together, but specifically from Kellen Moore's standpoint, he really was able to dial it in. And he just had the tools at his disposal he never had before. So it's set up for Kevin Patullo to have a good season. He just needs to duplicate what he saw work last year, right? We have a dominant offensive line. We have the best wide receiver tandem in the league. We have a top 10 tight end in the league. We got the best offensive line in the league with one, in my opinion, a top 2 quarterback in this league. So across the board, you got the best of the best. Now, can he put these things together and going up against a tough schedule? On paper, they say that it's a tough schedule. In my way too early predictions, I got us winning 13 games. I may change my tune once I see the full scope of everybody's 53-man roster after camp. But as we currently sit with projections and what we could look like, I think that we win 13 games. With what we have on paper so far. Now, we could add some additions. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with any early injuries or injuries, period. But anything that would kind of derail our season before it even starts. Tell me what y'all really honestly expect out of Kevin Patullo without really knowing much about what he could potentially bring. Like I said, I don't think that we necessarily take a step back. If we can remember last year, it wasn't like we was lighting up the league on a weekly basis offensively. Um, we just were really good at running the ball and exploiting the weaknesses of whatever defense we were playing. If you were weak in run defense, we were going to run the ball. If you were weak in pass defense, we were going to throw the ball. I suspect that part to stay the same. So it really is up to the defenses that we play and what kind of looks they show us. It's kind of like when you think about fighters like a Shakur Stevenson, just to go completely to another sport. We talk about boxing for a second. Shakur Stevenson is a great defensive fighter, right? But if you don't give him a great opponent to face, you never really see his potential because it takes another great fighter to bring greatness out of you sometimes. So similar to what we say in our matchups from week to week, it's going to take a great defense to show what we can or can't do. And if you have any deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball, we have pieces that can exploit that. So I suspect that we pretty much we can either stay the same or potentially get even better because the passing game from a stat standpoint wasn't all that great. And we all know that most football fans, that's all they care about is stats. I'm a wins guy. Let's see. Bagel said, well, he's a good draft pick for sure. who we talking about is a good draft pick, Bagel? We talking about the guy that you dropped in the chat? I think so too. Um, but yeah, I think when we talk about projections and what we can expect going into the 2025 season, I don't think there's a drop off just because it wasn't like we were lighting teams on fire last year, right? We were winning. We were winning games. And I think once we got up big, you couldn't stop us from running the ball. And I don't see that stopping. Like I said, we still have pretty much the same offense we had last year with the potential to get better because now we have Jahan Dotson going through a full camp and gaining reps with Hurts. We got Smitty and AJ returning. We got a healthy Goddard at least starting off. The only position that is in question would be our right guard position with Tyler Steen, and I trust that he's good. When it comes to Stoughton University and his guys, I never have any questions about them because they got a proven track record of producing top tier talent on that side of the ball, or just getting the most out of what they have in house. I think we did a really good job in the draft of drafting some guys that can come in and give us some valuable minutes in a pinch if we do need to plug and play a little bit for a game or two. But we also have some solid depth behind our starters. So, with that being said, what do you guys think of Kevin Patullo and potentially what this offense could look like in 2025? I'm excited about it. I can't wait to. Uh, Shoot, I'm really ready for. I'm ready for camp. I'm ready for the preseason. Obviously, I'm ready for regular games to be played as well. But can't wait for that. Uh, Let me know what you think in the comments. I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover today, from recent news around the league to Kevin Patullo and what we can expect from him. But this has been another amazing episode of the Down South Philly Show, also featured on the Sports Lounge Media. So, guys, do me a favor and go over to the Sports Lounge Media. Give them a sub. You can catch us on the channel on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, go ahead and visit the sportsloungemedia.com where we're gonna have some amazing content on there. Play around with some network stuff. It's some big stuff coming and some big stuff that will happen on that platform. Let's see what Baker said. Well, I don't know much about him, but I'm sure y'all got at least 10 wins locked in. Yeah, yeah. I suspect. I think that's 10 to 11 wins is our floor. I would say. I would say 10 to 11 wins is our floor. That's funny that you mentioned that, Bagel, the Discord. Like literally, the only time I think about it is when you bring it up on the stream. Like literally, right after the stream, it's like in one ear and out the other. And it's not that I'm ignoring you. I always forget about it. It's just a lot going on, or for some reason, it's just never on the forefront of my mind to go check that out. But I need to go check out that Discord. Um, but before we get out of here, I just want to reiterate again: go sub up the Sports Lounge Media. Make sure you're following the Down South Philly Show, of course, where we not only bring you these Bird Talk episodes on a weekly basis, but we bring daily content of things that pop up on a daily basis. From that could be anything Eagle related or just big moves around the NFL. So that's my time tonight. Again, I said on the Sports Lounge Media, if you're into fantasy football, we got a big show coming up at 9 p.m. with the Marshall Experience. So go check that out on Sports Lounge Media. This has been another amazing. This has been Bird Talk on the Down South Philly Show with your host DP, and we will see you next week. Y'all have a great one.